Why was Vision Miner started?
Wow, that's a, I don't know if we've actually gone into depth of that question before.
I don't think I
So,
recorded it actually. So
no? All right, well, let me give you a little backstory.
Back in 2016, Patrick was actually doing a lot of development in the drone industry.
I had a drone company, and drones were doing great. I started a manufacturing company so that we could manufacture high-end drones. These were like $100,000 drones that were carrying anywhere from $50 to $100,000 camera payloads, lidar payloads, and stuff like that. Throughout that process in the manufacturing, I needed to start rapid prototyping. And so I started looking into 3D printing. I'm running into a problem where I'm CNCing the parts, and you get the part done, and next thing you know, you notice you're maybe a hundredth of an inch off, or you're a small percentage off, or you gauge something wrong, and now you're having to go back. You're starting back with a fresh block of aluminum, whittling it down. Your engineering time, your machine time, just all this stuff is adding up. I said, we got to find a way to do this faster. So that's why I got into the 3D printing, but quickly found the parts that you're able to print, the materials you could print in, they weren't for functional use. Like, yeah, you could get some fitment type stuff, but as far as putting them in an in-use case, I mean, PLA itself, will melt in the sun. You make something on your dashboard, it's going to melt and deform. ABS, cool, you get a little bit better strength properties, but it also had its drawbacks in the warping and the peeling and having the heated chambers and stuff. And so I started to run into all these problems. Now I'm trying to tune the printers themselves, and I'm spending more dang time tuning the printers to try to get it to print the parts. I'm wasting more time. I should have just been doing the CNC process, and I would have been ahead of the game. So around this time in the drone store, I had a friend, Rob, started coming in. Rob started visiting.
So I ended up stumbling into Patrick's drone store, asking for little connectors and different things like that. And we ended up meeting and just we headed off.
Rob was this guy that just had this amount of freaking positive energy. I'd be in my top office and I could hear when he would come into the store. And at that time, he was doing high-end marketing. I mean, this guy was making well over six figures doing high-end marketing and building websites. And I needed something like that. I needed some high-end marketing and videos for our drones. And so we started to build a friendship, started to hang out, started going on trips and stuff together, and started asking questions. He started asking me about business, asked me how to be successful and stuff like that.
One day he asked me, what do you know about 3D printing?
He's like, 3D what? It's okay, let me show you. So I took him in here, I showed him this machine. I think I pulled up Thingiverse, grabbed a file, pulled a file off, showed him how to load it on an SD card, took it, showed him how to level the build plate. I said, do this, take this machine, take it home for the weekend, come back and show me what you learned.
So I took it home and it had words like PEEK and PPSU and ULTEM. And so I did some research and I found that these materials had been used for 40 plus years in industry. They've been around a while, but nobody was 3D printing them. And they were super strong functional materials. They were robust plastics that were metal replacement thermoplastics. So in Pat's drone business, this was really exciting because he'd be, building, gimbals for Red Epic cameras and cinema cameras. And 3D printing at the time in ABS or PLA just wasn't strong enough. And so
I think I ended up meeting him at his house and maybe come over on a Sunday or something. He's like, oh, come over, check this out. I'm not kidding. I walk in, he had this thing set up in his room and there's freaking plastic everywhere. I mean, there is stuff everywhere. This guy hasn't slept in probably 2 days, has been nonstop 3D printing, going from learning practically nothing at all to becoming almost a guru in 3D printing. Like, this guy was making some moves fast. And that's when I knew, I said, okay, this guy has potential.
I came back and I said, hey, Pat, these materials are really robust. Nobody's doing this in the industry yet, but these materials are super heavily used. And I just remember he's like, yeah, do you want to start a company? And I was like, what, with you? And he was like, yeah. I was like, absolutely.
I said, okay, you really want to build a business, Rob? He's like, yep. I said, do you understand you're going to work harder than you ever had in your life for probably 3 to 5 years and you're not going to make a dime? I said, are you willing to do that? He's like, yep. It's okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to start a 3D printing company. My belief is, like, if I can master this for myself, if I can solve my problems so I can truly make functional parts, I can make drones with it, I can make camera gimbals with it. If I can learn how to do this all myself, then I'll be able to teach others to do it. I said, so Ra, first thing we got to do, we got to master this process. And you didn't see Vision Miner for over a year. We were in a small building just going through rolls and rolls and rolls of material. The first thing we ran into, the major problem, was the build plate adhesion. The PEEK and ULTEM would not stick. I said, that's it. I'm going to invent the freaking glue that's going to solve this problem. That's where nanopolymer was invented. It was to solve that first problem of getting your first layer done. Once we got that first layer problem solved with the nano, now we were able to learn so fast, and we start learning the different geometries and how the temperatures build up, and you get the oozing and all this stuff. And we went down this rabbit hole for a year, tens and tens of thousands of dollars in filament wasted, thrown down the drain, but we learned very fast. And so that's where Vision Miner was born from. It started as a plan to solve our problems, and the ultimate goal that I had at that time is I wanted to make Rob a success. He asked me, can you teach me how to be successful? Can you teach me how to build a business? And we used this as the vehicle to start this journey together, and it has been absolutely amazing. 8 years now, and Vision Miner has gone above our dreams. It's growing and going faster than we ever thought possible.
I mean, when we started Vision Miner, there was maybe only a few machines on the market at all. There was the Intamsys FunMat, there was Rebosi had a little machine out, Stratasys was doing a little bit in Ultem 9085, and then Aeon 3D had just begun.
I'll tell you what made us go down the path of creating our own product and making our own machine. And that was, I was so tired of the customer support from these other products. I was sick and tired of needing help, needing support, being in the middle of a project, making something that needed to be done, had a deadline the next day, overnight, and have something go wrong with the machine. And trying to get the support and reach out to these manufacturers, and you're explaining it to them, it's like, oh, take pictures, send videos. And it's like, it really just boiled down to, a lot of times it was the production quality of the machine. Sometimes we'd get products and it would be DOA, and you're spending hours in frustration just trying to figure this stuff out. And it got to a point where I said, that's it. We got to do this ourselves, because we can't sell a product and not be able to support it. The worst feeling in the world is when you sell something to someone and they call you for help, and say it might be a freaking motherboard blew up. Say their motherboard DOA doesn't work, it needs a new motherboard. For me, I'm overnighting it to you. I understand you're a business, you need to be up and running, you're losing money. I'll freaking overnight you a board right now. But when it was another manufacturer, I reach out to them and I'm explaining to them, hey, this is the customer, he's using it for this, he has a problem, the board is bad, we gotta send him a new board. Like, oh, no, have him do a video first. Oh, have him ship that one back. Oh, ship it back to where? Ship it back to China? And how long is it gonna take to get it? And now you're gonna send it slow boat to get to this guy's down for a month? Like that, you can't do that. And so we were forced into a position to where we got to make our own product so we can respond to the customer's needs in an instant. So we can respond as fast as possible so we can give them the service and support that they need.
The only way we were going to get a machine that had the capabilities and the features and the workflow that we wanted was if we did it ourselves. And we were well qualified to do it after years of using all the other machines in the market, that we knew what was there, what was done, what wasn't done, and we just knew it was time.
Version 1 showed that there was true potential. Not only could we bring a machine at a good, affordable price point for something of this caliber, but it also gave us the ability to now provide that one-on-one support without having any middleman in between us.
Version 1 was all handcrafted machines. Version 2 is the first mass-produced machines.
And what we learned is that there was for sure demand. I think we went like 1-2 years with being sold out, non-stop, constantly on back order. It showed there was a demand, but it also gave us a ton of feedback, a lot of things that we said, if we really want to, we can take this to a whole nother level. It's got potential, but it's got a lot of work. We got a lot of things that we can implement.
The biggest problem with V1 was keeping up with the demand of producing enough V1s for the customers, and then there was another problem, educating the customers.
It's interesting, since the beginning, we've almost been like evangelists of high temp. You know, when we started, not a lot of people were doing high temp, very, very few. And we just wanted people to know that, hey, did you know you can print these plastics that are strong like metal, that are robust and high temperature and chemically resistant? People just didn't know. So educating the market, educating the industry that, hey, you can do this now, has been a really big part of that.
And then the V2 came out with over 150 changes, and that was one of our first solid workhorses that implemented the changes that the public and our customers were asking for.
We gathered all the information from every customer. I literally had a notebook with every customer name and everything that they wanted, everything that they mentioned. Everything they didn't mention, I also wrote down, and that's how we create the V2.
A lot of companies today have turned their customers into numbers, and since the beginning we've always had a relationship based approach where our customers truly matter, and our customers doing well with the machines that we sell them is what matters the most, and that alone can support us just through referrals and people buying more machines because they trust us. We've earned that trust by being there, answering the phones, answering the emails, helping them through anything they need. That has continued to be the number one thing, and I think that applies to almost any business.
These machines, I'm not kidding, are in some of the top Fortune 500 companies. When you list the majority of our customers, who are they? The top of that list is the military. I can tell you almost every single branch of the military has not just one of our machines, but multiple of our machines. And these are in use worldwide. Some are on ships, some are on naval bases, some are in submarine uses. Like, the list goes on and on.
In the military equipment, there are a lot of complex mechanisms. They break, they need repairs, they need maintenance. And military at the front lines have those machines. They rely on them to fix those parts. They rely on them to print repeatably, and they need this equipment to save lives.
The second on that list is high-end aerospace. It's like Cessna aircraft or Bell helicopters. Again, this list is massive. And so by dealing with these customers and talking to them one-on-one and going back and forth and learning what they're using it for and helping them tune and slice and learn the different parts and the geometries that they're doing, what they need in a machine, the reliability of the machine, how to make tuning easier, how to make maintenance easier, how to implement some of these things like locking the back doors, or maybe it needs different lighting, or maybe it needs this. Like, taking all that feedback is what took us to V3. So now we took a good, solid, proven platform, V2, with, again, taking this customer feedback. And that's what's nice about having our own factory, having our own engineer team, is I can go immediately into the engineering department and say, hey, this guy just brought up a really good case. Why is this like this? We can make it like that. Boom! Almost instantly, I can have a new CNC part done. I can have a new design. I can put it into testing, put it through testing, and absolutely say, okay, let's approve it on the next batch. And so even though V2, V3 are two different versions, there's also changes that go throughout even the V3, where we're adding little things to make your life easier, to make calibration a little bit better, to make the tuning more smoother. So we're constantly innovating and taking the customer's feedback and seeing what can we do, what can we improve, and how can we implement it for the customers. So that got us to V3.
And then everything after that has been continual refinement and just making it better and better and better by iteration after iteration. Just the V4 has over 200 changes from just V3. So thousands of changes all the way from V1 until now. It really is a completely different machine inside and out.
But again, having this in the field, listening to the in-use customers and hearing what they could use it for, what they need. There's simple things like we really need the front door to lock, we need the back doors to lock, and we need to be able to lock a lid. That's in a government in-use case to where they want to be able to have it. Let's say it's a proprietary secret part that's being printed in there. They don't want someone to be able to come in, take that part, and steal it. Who knows what that part could be for? It could be part of a missile housing. It could be part of a new spacecraft. You don't know. So that was one of the requests.
No matter how good of engineer you are, how big of a team you have, you never can look from that many angles as your customers. We truly had a lot of customers, and we really had very talented engineers using our machines.
I will say it is really nice being able to make our own machine now. Having the factory of our own, where we can have an idea one day, come up with ideas and designs the next day, send it off to factory and have it implemented in the design like immediately. Or even, hey, what if we did this? And seeing that change within a week as opposed to waiting years, that's been awesome.
Then we went to the engineering team and said, what would you guys like to do? You got 3-4 years of experience from V1 to V3. What changes do you guys want to make? Oh, and then I started giving some input. I said, I want this thing to look beautiful. When I look in that machine, it's got to look high-end. It needs to look like a freaking spacecraft. I want it to be so clean and sexy that it just looks great. I want everything CNC. I don't like plastic. I want CNC aluminum, everything. I want easier to adjust it. And being able to work with the engineer team directly to give the engineer their freedom to give these guys what they need, the tools, abilities. If you want to manufacture something, oh, that's going to cost more, Patrick, I don't care. Do it. If it's going to make it better and improve the performance, reliability, or quality, let's do it. Let's cut 0 corners. Let's make this the absolute best we can. And now you get that in the brand new V4. The V4 really exemplifies the growth of the company and how we've come together as a complete team. We have the engine firing on all cylinders. When you have the engineering department with the marketing department, with the support department, everything that's gone into the V4, each department is just maximizing and performing at their absolute peak.
There's something surreal too about seeing this machine now and how far it's come, and comparing it to the early days with all the other machines, and knowing, you know, it still feels like it's years ago and we're just still doing the same thing, except everything's gotten better. It's fascinating.
We're growing, we're thriving, it's fun. I'm having the best time of my life, seeing the individuals grow themselves, to see the team grow. Like, we are just having the absolute best fun. And the customers that we get to deal with on a daily basis, the stories I get to hear, the parts that we get to make, every day I come in, it's something new, it's something exciting. One day may be printing a freaking dolphin harness that's going miles under the ocean. Another day may be a part that's going up into a missile silo or something that's in the space station. It's this, every day is something fun, something exciting. If you like the V4, wait till you see the one that comes out next month, because that's really gonna blow your mind.
Next month?
I'm just kidding.
Another